I was really struck by this idea in Adam Grant's thinking. He calls it the good fight club.
Right?
It's not what it sounds like, though. Definitely no punching involved.
No. It's more about the power of productive disagreement, something we usually, well, try to avoid.
Exactly. It really flips the script on how we normally think about conflict, doesn't it?
Totally. We're sort of conditioned to see arguments as, negative,
Yeah,
stressful.
absolutely. And that's precisely what we want to unpack for you today. We're doing a deep dive into how engaging in disagreements, when you do it right, can actually sharpen your thinking.
And even boost creativity, surprisingly.
Yeah. It's about understanding that not all friction is bad friction.
Mm-hmm. And the core of this, like you said, it comes from Chapter 4 of Think Again. The chapter is actually called The Good Fight Club.
Perfect title for it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And Grant explores these often overlooked benefits of what he calls constructive conflict. He uses research, real-world examples. It's pretty compelling stuff.
So our mission here is basically to pull out the key principles of this Good Fight Club, make them practical, usable for you listening.
The toolkit for disagreements.
Think of it as your guide to not just like surviving disagreements, but actually using them to get better results in, work or life. Okay, let's really get into this.
Right. So maybe start with that common feeling, that discomfort. Arguments often feel, well, unpleasant.
Definitely. Oscar Wilde had that great line, didn't he? Called them extremely vulgar.
He did. And you can see why, right? So often they just turn into personal attacks, bad feelings.
Yeah, nobody wins. Just negativity.
But the book makes this really crucial distinction. It separates out different types of conflict.
Yeah, relationship conflict versus task conflict. That was a big one.
Yeah, exactly. Relationship conflict, that's the one we all hate. It gets personal, hostile, damages the actual relationship, almost always bad news.
Right. Avoid that one.
But task conflict, that's different. That's where the potential is.
Because it's focused purely on the work itself, the ideas, the potential solutions.
Precisely. It's about debating the substance, the merits of an idea, not, attacking the person who suggested it.
And Think Again points to some really surprising upsides from that kind of intellectual sparring.
It really does. There's research mentioned, like, in Chinese tech companies, task conflict actually led to more original ideas.
More original. Wow.
Yeah. And in Dutch delivery services, it fueled innovation. And most critically, in American hospitals, it was linked to better decision-making.
That hospital example, I mean, the stakes are so high there. Better decisions can literally save lives.
It really puts it in perspective. And there's that quote in the chapter from Kathleen Eisenhart.
Oh, the one about critical thinking?
That's it. The absence of conflict is the absence of critical thinking.
Oof. That really hits you, doesn't it? It makes you think twice about always striving for harmony.
It does. It suggests that, if everyone just nods along, maybe you're not digging deep enough. Maybe you're missing something important.
Which kind of leads perfectly into that classic example the book uses, the Wright brothers.
Ugh. Wilbur and Orville. Yeah, they're presented as like masters of this intense task conflict, but without the relationship fallout.
They were constantly arguing about their inventions.
Constantly. And apparently this ability to really go at it intellectually was sort of nurtured from a young age.
Right. Their father, he was a bishop, but he encouraged debate, had books by atheists and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He actively encouraged them to read things they disagreed with and debate the ideas. Talk about training for constructive conflict.
No kidding. Like intellectual boot camp at the dinner table.
Pretty much. And so when they started trying to invent the airplane, these intense arguments were just how they worked. Hours and hours, apparently.
Debating every little detail of the flying machine.
Mm-hmm. And there's that great quote from their mechanic. Something like,
Oh, I don't think they really got mad, but they sure got awfully hot.
That's the one. It perfectly captures it, right? Passionate, intense, but focused on the problem, not each other.
And it wasn't just talk. The book uses the propeller design as a specific example.
Yeah, they had totally different ideas about how it should work. Argued fiercely.
But it was through that argument, through challenging each other, testing assumptions,
that they landed on the groundbreaking design, the one that actually worked and was key to their success.
It shows how that rigorous debate was essential, not incidental.
Absolutely. Their willingness to put their ideas through that fire, basically, was crucial. Which brings up that really cool concept from the book, thinking of your adversary as a
propeller.
Exactly. Not someone to beat, but someone or some idea that pushes your thinking forward, helps it take flight.
adversary as propeller. I love that image. It completely reframes disagreement.
It really does.
Now, the book also flips things around and says avoiding arguments can actually be, well, almost rude or unproductive anyway.
Yeah, like it's a form of bad manners almost. The idea being that if you hold back your different perspective, you're kind of disrespecting both your own view and the possibility of reaching a better conclusion through, a civil discussion.
Like you're denying the group the benefit of a challenge.
Sort of. And this ties into the example of Brad Bird, the director, from The Incredibles.
Oh yeah, him and his producer, John Walker. They apparently had these epic arguments during the making of the film.
Legendary fights, the book says, over tiny details sometimes, like Mr. Incredible's hairline or Violet's hair length.
Seems minor, right? But the point was...
The point was that these passionate disagreements, always focused on making the film better, ultimately pushed the creative process.
Right.
Led to a better movie, 2 Oscars. It highlights how even small points matter when you're striving for excellence.
It really shows that intense scrutiny, that willingness to fight for the best version, pays off. And Bird had that quote.
The iron sharpens iron one.
That's it. If we agree too readily, we're likely settling for something less. Iron sharpens iron. We need to fight it out. It makes the stuff stronger.
It really echoes that adversary as propeller idea, doesn't it?
Totally. That constructive friction leads to a stronger, more refined outcome, whether it's a movie or, a business plan.
Right. So, okay, we know these fights can be good, but how do we have them effectively? The book talks about framing, doesn't it?
Yeah, the idea of calling it a debate instead of a disagreement.
That subtle shift in language, why does that matter?
Well, the thinking is debate sounds more like an intellectual exploration. It signals you're open to different views, maybe even changing your mind.
Whereas disagreement can feel more personal, more confrontational, like you're just drawing battle lines.
Exactly. And the book cites research suggesting that framing it as a debate actually makes people more willing to share information because they feel less attacked.
That makes sense. It lowers the defenses a bit.
Which brings us back, again, to the Wright brothers. They could have those heated exchanges because the underlying frame was always about solving the puzzle of flight, a shared goal.
It was a continuous debate, not just a string of personal fights.
Right, and that whole process, seeing the argument as a way to get to a better solution, it leads to deeper understanding for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm. Which connects to another really interesting concept in the book, the illusion of explanatory depth.
Oh, this one really resonated with me. It's that thing where we think we understand complex topics way better than we actually do.
Yeah, we all do it. The book uses political beliefs as an example. People often have super strong opinions on policies.
But when you ask them to actually explain how the policy works, step by step.
Exactly. They suddenly realize, they can't actually articulate the details. The experiments mentioned are fascinating people, genuinely surprised by their own lack of understanding.
It's humbling. You feel so sure, but then you draw a blank.
Right. And the book suggests a way to counter this illusion is simply asking how and why questions more often, of ourselves and of others.
Probing beyond the surface claims, getting into the mechanics.
Yeah, that curiosity, that willingness to dig into the reasoning. It's key for spotting flaws in our own thinking and also for genuinely understanding where others are coming from.
Even briefly touches on AI, right? IBM's Project Debater.
Just to mention, yeah, highlighting that even AI is being developed to engage in complex debates, showing the inherent value in that kind of structured argument for teasing out understanding.
It really underlines how powerful a well-run debate can be.
Okay, so we've explored this good Fight Club idea.
Yeah.
If we had to boil it down, what are the core takeaways for listeners?
Well, I think number one is just that key distinction. Not all conflict is bad. These good fights focused on the task, built on respect, they aren't just okay, they're actually, vital.
Vital for creativity, for innovation, for getting to a deeper understanding.
Exactly. And number two is maybe about reframing, shifting how we see disagreement.
Instead of seeing it as a threat, seeing it as an opportunity.
Yeah, an opportunity to challenge ourselves, learn from others, refine our own ideas. Those aha moments often come from that productive clash, not from easy agreement.
Makes sense. This is where the sparks happen.
Right. So maybe a final thought for you listening to mull over.
Now that you've heard about this good Fight Club, how could you maybe intentionally seek out or structure more constructive disagreements in your work, maybe even in your personal life?
How can you use that adversary as propeller idea more consciously.
Exactly. How can you use that friction not just to argue, but to challenge assumptions, your own and others, and ultimately get to better outcomes?
Yeah.
Sometimes, the best insights are hiding in plain sight right inside a disagreement.